You know, there's a curious idea we've been taught since childhood, that helping others is always the right thing to do. From the moment we were young, we were told that to be a good person, a kind person, a spiritual person, you must always say yes. Always give. Always be available. And if you hesitate, if you take a breath before agreeing, if you dare to set a boundary, something must be wrong with you, right? You must be selfish. You must be unkind. You must be unspiritual. But what if that entire idea, that unconditional giving equals goodness, is backwards? What if the compulsive need to fix everyone, to rescue everyone, to heal everyone, isn't love at all, but a kind of interference? A subtle arrogance, even, a way of interrupting the lessons that life is trying to teach? Let me ask you this. When you continually rescue someone from the consequences of their own actions, what are you actually doing? You're not helping them. You're keeping them trapped. You're standing between them and the wisdom that only comes through experience. It's like pulling a butterfly out of its cocoon because you can't stand to see it struggle. You may think you're helping, but you're actually killing its ability to fly. Now, I'm not saying we should become cold or indifferent. That would be another illusion, another extreme. The question isn't whether we should care, but how we should care. And more importantly, who we should care for. Because the truth is, not everyone wants help. Not everyone is ready to change. And not everyone will use your compassion wisely. There are certain types of people who will drain you dry, not because they are evil, but because they are unready. And until you learn to recognize them, you'll keep pouring your soul into bottomless wells. So today, let's explore 7 types of people you must stop helping, not to judge or condemn, but to protect your own energy, and to allow others to face the very experiences that might finally wake them up. 1. The chronically lazy. There's a difference between someone who's struggling and someone who's stagnant. The struggling person takes your help as a stepping stone. The lazy person uses it as a hammock. They have quietly decided, perhaps without ever saying it, that life is too difficult and someone else should carry their weight. And the moment you step in, you become that someone else. Nature doesn't operate this way. A bird doesn't feed a chick that refuses to open its mouth. A tree doesn't keep nourishing a branch that bears no fruit. Nature is ruthless, but wise. When something stops contributing to the whole, it's eventually cut off, not out of cruelty, but out of necessity. The chronically lazy always have a story. They'll tell you about their terrible luck, their painful childhood, the people who wronged them, and some of it may even be true. But here's the question that cuts through all excuses. What are they doing about it now? Are they taking even one small step toward change? Or are they waiting for another rescuer to arrive? When you help someone who refuses to help themselves, you rob them of something sacred, the strength that comes from struggle. The pride of their own accomplishment. The discovery that they are capable. Some of you have been carrying people for years, paying their bills, fixing their mistakes, cleaning up their chaos, and you call it kindness. But what if your kindness is actually keeping them weak? What if your help is the very thing preventing their awakening? The truth is, the lazy need discomfort. They need to feel hunger, failure, consequence, because only when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of change will they finally move. And when you interfere with that process, you steal their transformation. 2. The perpetually ungrateful. You've met them, people who can receive the most extraordinary gifts and treat them as nothing. You give them your time, your love, your energy, even your peace, and they take it as if it's air, invisible, infinite, free. They never say thank you. Not because they forget, but because they don't feel gratitude. You see, gratitude isn't just good manners, it's consciousness. It's the awareness that every kindness you receive is a gift, not an entitlement. A grateful person recognizes they are part of something larger than themselves. They honor the exchange. They respect energy. But the ungrateful person believes the world owes them. Your help isn't a gift, it's a right. And the more you give, the more entitled they become. It's one of life's strangest paradoxes: the more you pour into them, the less they value it. I once knew a man who helped a friend pay rent for 6 months straight, sacrificing his own comfort to keep that friend from homelessness. And do you know what happened? The friend complained. He complained that the apartment was too small, that the neighborhood wasn't nice enough, that others had more. Not once did he say thank you. Not once did he acknowledge the sacrifice. And when the help stopped, he became angry. Because in his mind, help wasn't kindness, it was obligation. Ungrateful people don't see generosity. They see opportunity. They don't see compassion. They see weakness. And when you help them, you're not planting seeds, you're feeding a bottomless pit. No matter how much you pour, it will never fill. So remember. When gratitude is absent, giving becomes self-destruction. You know, one of the most painful realizations for a compassionate person is this. You cannot help someone who is committed to staying the same. It doesn't matter how much you love them, how much you sacrifice, how deeply you see their potential, if they are not ready to grow, your efforts become not just useless, but harmful. And nowhere is this clearer than with the next 3 types of people. 3. The arrogant and self-righteous. There are people who do not seek your guidance, they seek your agreement. They don't want wisdom, they want validation. They don't want to learn, they want to be right. And if you offer anything that challenges their worldview, even gently, they reject it instantly. Arrogance is not confidence. Arrogance is fear in disguise. A deeply insecure person must cling to their beliefs as if they were life rafts. If they admit you have something to teach them, even for a moment, their whole identity begins to shake. So they defend, argue, attack, and dismiss, not because they are strong but because they are fragile. You cannot help someone like this. Not because they are hopeless, but because help is only effective when someone recognizes they need it. The arrogant person refuses to see themselves. And when someone refuses to see themselves, they cannot see the value of your wisdom either. Even the greatest teachers understood this. Jesus walked away from the self-righteous. Buddha refused to argue with those attached to their illusions. Lao Tzu said, when the student is not ready, the teacher must remain silent. The arrogant must fall on their own. They must face the consequences of their pride, the losses, the failures, the humbling moments, before the heart finally cracks open. Only then does real understanding enter. Until that day comes, your help is noise to them. 4. The habitually wicked. This is the one people struggle with the most, because we live in a culture that avoids moral language. We don't want to call anything evil. We say someone is hurt, confused, misunderstood. But let's speak plainly. There are people in this world who know exactly what they're doing, and they choose to do harm anyway. A wicked person isn't someone who makes a mistake. We all make mistakes. A wicked person is someone who lies without remorse, manipulates without guilt, harms without conscience, repeats the same destructive behavior even after being confronted. They do not apologize, they justify. They do not reflect, they blame. They do not change, they escalate. When you help someone like this, you don't help them change. You simply give them more resources to continue causing harm. You clean their mess, and they create a bigger one. You protect them, and they hurt you next. You shield them, and they hurt someone else later. This is why every wisdom tradition, from Stoicism to Christianity to Taoism, warns about supporting those who do evil. Not out of cruelty, but out of clarity. When you help a wicked person, you are not lifting them up. You are walking into their darkness. You are becoming part of their machinery. You are funding the continuation of their path. And here's what's even more chilling. Wicked people don't want healing. They want access. Access to your energy. Access to your resources. Access to your compassion. They want your kindness, not because it saves them, but because it enables them. And if you get too close, they will not just harm others. They will harm you. 5. The incurably foolish. A fool is not someone with low intelligence. A fool is someone who refuses to learn. A wise person touches the fire once. A fool touches it every single time, then wonders why they're burned. The foolish person lives in loops. The same crisis. The same mistakes. The same chaos. The same regret. And each time, someone rescues them. And each time, they go right back to the same behavior. They are not lacking advice. They are drowning in advice. They simply do not use it. Helping a fool feels compassionate, but it is actually interference. You are blocking the consequences that life is trying to use as their teacher. And here is the cruelty of trying to save a fool. If you jump in to save them, they will pull you under. Not out of malice, but out of unconsciousness. They don't know any other way to live. They don't know how to grab the life preserver. They don't know how to choose differently. You cannot save someone from drowning if they refuse to stop thrashing. For the fool, only reality. Not advice, not lectures, not rescue. Only consequences can awaken them. And if you constantly intervene, you prevent life from teaching the very lessons they need most. The deeper truth behind these 3 types. All 3, the arrogant, the wicked, and the foolish, share one thing in common. They do not change through help. They only change through consequence. And when you try to help them too early, too much, or too often, you exhaust yourself. You disempower them. You interrupt their growth. You become entangled in their chaos. You must understand. Compassion without discernment becomes self-destruction. Wisdom is knowing who to pour into. And when to step back. By now, you can probably see the pattern. Not everyone who suffers is ready for help. Not everyone who asks for guidance genuinely wants to change. And not everyone who cries for rescue is drowning, some are simply refusing to swim. But among all these types of people, there is one who is the most dangerous, the most subtle, and the hardest to identify. Let's talk about them. 6. The master manipulator. The manipulator does not come demanding. They come disguised. They don't say, "Help me." They say just enough to make you want to help. They understand generosity. They understand guilt. They understand empathy. And they exploit all 3. A manipulator studies you. They observe your soft spots, the places in your heart where compassion overpowers clarity. And then they press, gently at first, then harder. They tell you stories designed to provoke your pity. They present themselves as the victim, the misunderstood one, the fragile soul who just needs a little support. They shape-shift depending on who they're speaking to. With one person, they're the helpless child. With another, the brave survivor. With another, the righteous fighter. If you compare their stories, something becomes clear. The pieces don't match. But here is the real danger. You don't realize you're being manipulated until you're already deep in the web. Manipulators drain you without ever appearing to take. They make you believe you're doing the right thing, even as you're sacrificing more than you can afford. And when you finally wake up, when you see the truth, something astonishing happens. They turn on you. Suddenly, you are the villain. They recast the story so they remain the victim. They smear you to others. They create new narratives. And then, like a parasite finding a new host, they move on to their next target. When you help a manipulator, you're not feeding a person. You're feeding a system. It does not get better. It only gets stronger. 7. The unrepentant rebel. Now, this person is different from the fool. The fool doesn't learn because they're unconscious. The rebel doesn't learn because they refuse to. They know better. They've been taught. They've been warned. They've suffered consequences. And yet, they continue. The unrepentant rebel has a strange relationship with truth. They see it, but they turn away. They hear it, but ignore it. They understand it, but reject it. They are allergic to discipline, allergic to responsibility, allergic to accountability. You can guide them. You can reason with them. You can help them rebuild their lives again and again. And each time, you will watch them dismantle everything you helped them create. Helping this person is like trying to fill a bucket with a giant hole in the bottom. No matter how much you pour, nothing remains. This is why it hurts so much. Because with the rebel, you see their potential. You know what they could be. You see glimpses of brilliance, flashes of strength, moments of clarity. But moments are not enough. Potential is not enough. Hope is not enough. They must want the change more than they want the chaos. And until that desire comes from within them, your help is nothing more than emotional CPR on someone who keeps jumping off the same cliff. You cannot want healing more than they do. You cannot fight for their freedom harder than they fight for it themselves. And if you try, the only result is that you drown while they continue drifting. The hardest lesson: you cannot save everyone. Now that we've explored these 7 types, there is a deeper truth we must face, perhaps the hardest truth of all. Love without boundaries is not love. Compassion without discernment is not compassion. Helping without wisdom becomes harm. Most people believe that to be a good person, you must always say yes. But spiritual maturity reveals something very different. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is step back and let someone face the consequences of their own choices. You are not abandoning them. You are not betraying them. You are not being cruel. You are allowing life, the greatest teacher of all, to take over where your efforts must end. Because there are lessons only reality can teach. Not your advice. Not your encouragement. Not your rescuing. And when you keep intervening, you are not saving them. You are delaying their evolution. You must understand. Your energy is sacred. Your time is finite. Your soul is not a public resource. And you are not required, not spiritually, not morally, not karmically, to set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. Helping becomes holy when it uplifts both people. Not when it empties one to temporarily soothe the other. The right person uses your help as fuel. The wrong person uses it as anesthesia. Wisdom is knowing the difference. By now, a quiet understanding may be forming in you, a realization that compassion is not what you thought it was. Not blind generosity. Not endless patience. Not sacrificing yourself in the name of kindness. Real compassion is something far more mature, far more subtle, far more courageous. It requires discernment. It requires boundaries. It requires the spiritual strength to let people face the journey that belongs to them and them alone. Let's explore this, because without this understanding, you will continue giving your life to the wrong people, people who do not grow, who do not listen, who do not rise, because growth is not what they're choosing. The spiritual trap of trying to save everyone. Many people who identify as helpers, healers, or bold souls fall into the same trap, the belief that it is their job to lift everyone they meet. To fix every broken person. To absorb every wound. To offer endless understanding, endless forgiveness, endless energy. But here's the paradox. The more unconscious a person is, the more they will demand from you. The more awakened you are, the more you will give. This is a perfect storm. A draining one. A destructive one. A karmic loop that keeps repeating until you finally see the truth. You cannot do someone else's evolving for them. The suffering they carry is often the very fire that must burn for their transformation to begin. And when you keep pulling them out of the fire, you are not saving them. You are preventing their rebirth. Why letting people fall is sometimes the most loving act. This is one of the hardest things to accept. Some people will not change until life breaks them open. Not because they are broken, but because they are asleep. And sleep is comfortable. Sleep feels safe. Sleep convinces you that you can keep repeating your patterns without consequence. But eventually, life stops whispering and starts shaking. Sometimes, the fall is the awakening. Sometimes, the collapse is the beginning. Sometimes, the loss is the medicine. Letting someone fall is not cruelty. It is sacred respect. It is acknowledging that their soul has its own curriculum. Its own pace. Its own timing. Its own karmic lessons. When you interfere, you interrupt the very process that life is using to awaken them. It is like pulling a seed out of the soil every day to check its progress. You kill what you are trying to help grow. The higher compassion, giving without becoming empty. Higher compassion is not the compassion of a martyr. It is the compassion of a wise being. It sounds like this. I love you, but I cannot do your work for you. I care for you, but I won't carry you. I wish the best for you, but I won't destroy myself to save you. I'm here, but I'm no longer sacrificing my soul to rescue yours. This form of compassion gives from fullness, not depletion. From clarity, not guilt. From strength, not fear. It knows when to hold a hand. And when to let a hand go. It knows when to speak. And when to remain silent. It knows when to help. And when to step back and say. This lesson is between you and life now. How to know when help is truly help. Ask yourself 3 questions before you give. 1. Will this help empower them, or make them dependent? If your help keeps them weak, it is not help. 2. Are they willing to take responsibility for their growth? If not, your efforts will be wasted. 3. Is this draining your life force or nourishing it? If it drains you, it is violating your path. You cannot elevate someone while lowering yourself. You cannot bring light into someone's darkness if they refuse to open their eyes. The people worth helping. While some people drain you, others bloom because of you. Let's speak of them for a moment. These people are rare, but when you meet them, you'll feel it immediately. They value your time. They appreciate your effort. They grow from your guidance. They take responsibility instead of blaming. They are willing to change, even when change is difficult. Helping these people is like planting seeds in fertile soil. Everything you give multiplies. These are the ones who deserve your energy. These are the ones you can walk with. These are the ones who evolve with you. The final truth, you are not here to save the world. This is the truth that all awakened souls eventually face. You cannot save everyone. You cannot rescue everyone. You cannot wake up the world. And you're not meant to. You are here to awaken yourself. To protect your energy. To refine your consciousness. To walk your path with clarity. To honor the life that is unfolding through you. When you do that. When you rise, when you heal, when you become whole. Your presence becomes a teaching. Your boundaries become a teaching. Your integrity becomes a teaching. Your peace becomes a teaching. People change not because you drag them into the light, but because they see your light. And feel something inside them beginning to stir. Awakening is not something you force. It is something you radiate. The art of compassionate withdrawal. So, if you find yourself stepping back from certain people, from draining relationships, from one-sided friendships, from chaotic dynamics, from those who refuse to grow, don't punish yourself. Don't feel guilty. Don't question your goodness. You're not abandoning them. You're honoring your path. You're protecting your soul. You're choosing consciousness over chaos. You're choosing wisdom over martyrdom. You're choosing truth over illusion. And if they ever become ready, truly ready, your presence will still be there. Not as a savior, but as a light they can walk toward. When they choose. Until then, let life teach them what your love could not. Not because you failed, but because it was never your lesson to teach.